what are we talking about?
Heated Rivalry.
It's about hockey, but it's absolutely not about hockey.
I think it's well written, well directed, and well acted.
Okay.
And all three of them go together. I do happen to like Shane more. Ilya's too wild. But Shane, he's clean cut. He's, very disciplined. Those are all things that personally appeal to me. He has a real estate fetish, which I'm just like, yes, go, go, go. Invest that money, live in nice houses.
Welcome to Story Joy. I'm Michael, and today I am joined by Remy Jane. Now, today, what are we talking about?
Heated Rivalry.
All right. So this is something that you kind of cajoled / bullied me into, I think, watching.
You have a whole podcast. How could you not? It is the sensation of the new year.
It's timely.
It kept us going through the winter, the dark winter months.
Right. Well, some of us.
Yes.
For me, it was more of an effort to make it through the whole thing.
That just speaks to your taste in shows.
I was trying, and I made it. I sat down with the cats, and I was like, all right. I was like doing homework. I was like, I agree to do. Let's do this. Okay, so for Heated Rivalry. So what is it about? We all know it's hot, and it's all over Instagram and everything else.
Yeah. I would say at its core, it is queer media.
Okay.
Written and directed by a gay man, so definitely queer media. It is hockey, but it is romance. So at its heart, it's a queer romance. That's how I would describe it. And truly, it's a well-written, well-directed, well-acted show.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's about hockey, but it's absolutely not about hockey.
Yes, you technically could transpose it into any sport. Caveat, any masculine sport, and we'll talk about that. But yes, it's not about hockey per se.
No, but I think it ends up being relevant because hockey, a lot of sports are traditionally masculine, obviously not all of them. And I think hockey is one of the ones that has remained far more so than most of the others. I think of soccer / football and some others that have seen some more inroads in this regard. I feel like hockey historically has not been so much the case. And I think even that has been recent. I don't know if it's actually been prompted by the show itself. So what made it kind of a hit? Because for me, I feel like I had seen shows a little bit like this before. Mm-hmm. So what got it sort of popular and everyone talking about it?
So I kind of summarized it earlier. I think it's well written, well directed, and well acted.
Okay.
And all three of them go together. A fourth point I would add to this is really the media and the press tour surrounding the show. And all of these come together to make it really, really the sensation that it is. Maybe a fifth point. I'm adding so many points. It's really the timing of the release. It's the timing of the release. So let's talk about all five. Well written, it is. You have not read it. I read a few chapters of Rachel Reid's book, the source material.
Right, it's 2019 publication, right? I think I read.
So I don't know.
I did a little bit of research in the Wikipedia. That was about the extent.
Yes. And, the book is good, but I personally didn't feel the magic that in the book that I felt was in the show. And a part of it is really... I feel the focus of the story is so heavily on the two male characters, and the rest of the world is not really as well fleshed out or as well focused upon.
It's just placements, backdrop more than anything.
Exactly. So I feel that the focus on the main characters, it just worked a bit better for me in the television medium than it did in the written book medium, where I need a little bit more...
Maybe something visual?
in the absence of something visual, I needed more description to flesh them out. But I only read a few chapters, and I didn't read the whole thing. So on me, I couldn't buy a copy. So what I read online where I could find it. Because copies were sold out everywhere.
Oh, really? Okay,
yes.
I had no idea.
Yes. So I do think the show is very well written. There's many elements of it that go very well. There's a lot of themes that begin and end together really well. There are scenes of them, like their shoes touching in episode 1, and then episode 6, there's the very first scene, Ilya is not able to light a cigarette, and then Shane shows up and it lights. Like there's such, cute little, like the writing has a lot of detail. The dialogue is pretty well written. There's, I thought that, in terms of the writing, there's a communication gap between the characters that they addressed really well, like language, culture. Shane's autistic. Ilya has a lot of trauma.
Yeah, the autism wasn't apparent to me. I don't know if that's something, if I had done the research, I would have known, because I mostly took it as anxiety. And these are not necessarily mutually exclusive, but without that contextual understanding, I was like, this is just a guy who's really anxious and kind of a lot's going on internally, and he doesn't, and it holds him back from expressing things. That, again, that's how I took it.
That's fair. And I didn't realize he's autistic until I read more, particularly Hudson Williams' take on it. So, I'm rambling, but my thing, it is very well written, well acted. I do want to say, I guess that also covered the well directed, because, I thought there's a lot of detail that's very carefully considered. It is well acted. I do think the two main actors, Hudson Williams and Connor Story, did a great job. From the Pest Tour, it seems like they're nothing like their characters in real life. Right. Hudson is crazy.
Okay.
Connor is very sweet. So they've done a great job. I think Hudson did a great job bringing out all these subtle facial expressions. And he doesn't say much, but you know what he's thinking, and that's some great acting. And Connor is not Russian, and he did this whole thing.
He nailed that, because I spent a lot of time abroad, a lot of exposure and all that sort of stuff, and I actually had to look him up, and it's like he grew up in Texas.
I was really surprised.
I was like, what? I mean, it's Odessa, Texas, but still, I was like, oh, okay, maybe something. I mean, just the accent, and it wasn't like a caricature either. It just sort of felt like, no, this is a Russian guy and all that sort of stuff. Culturally, he really got it, and obviously the writing has a lot to do with it. But he had to transform that writing into something we actually, saw, and I think I ended up enjoying his character more as a result, because it hit a little differently for me in the way that he was portrayed and the things he actually had to deal with, like culturally in the background of his family and all that sort of stuff. It's like, that's all real stuff. They didn't overdo it. It was just like, that's kind of how it works there. Yeah. So I think I ended up enjoying his character quite a bit.
Yeah.
With that in mind, what would you say are some of your favorite bits, whether it's characters or scenes or themes from the TV series?
I can tell you my favorite scene was really, it's in episode 6, but it's not even between Shane and Ilya. It's Shane's conversation with his mother.
Outside?
Yes. Okay. Where she says, "I'm sorry I made you feel like you couldn't tell me."
It's a sweet scene, yeah.
I do feel like that sort of acceptance, where it's not even I accepted you, why didn't you feel comfortable telling me? Like, it's just the acceptance and grace and understanding that she showed him, I think, is something, maybe it's the sort of conversation I would hope to have with my mother. I hope if I ever have children, I'm able to have with them. I think it's the sort of conversation that maybe, hopefully, I don't know if I ever did, but hopefully there are people who are LGBTQ who watch it and feel, and didn't get validation from their parents, but you feel like, yeah, this would have been a good response. Like,
it is a good response. And it's I think also that scene's interesting because it doesn't follow, we'll call it almost the trope around that, right? Where you have a parent that either rejects or has to come around.
Yeah.
She was already there, and as was the father. And the father at the table is, it's like, we've known you for a long time, Shane. We know you pretty well.
Yeah.
In other words, we're not that surprised.
Yeah.
Right? And so most of, we'll call it the hang up, was actually not with them. Actually, there was really none.
Yeah.
It was more, they were just more surprised about how long it had been going on, the relationship, than
And that
anything
it
else.
was with Ilya Rose.
Yeah, they did that.
Yeah.
All right, that we didn't see that coming. But otherwise, it was really showing that a lot of stuff was happening in Shane's head that he didn't need to be worried about.
Yeah.
But I mean, this was written in 2019 about something that starts taking place
2008 or something.
Is it? I thought it was like the early teens.
2007. I think so. Yeah.
Is it that early?
Yeah.
Okay, shoot.
The TV show at least.
Okay, yeah, because they have some timelines.
Yeah.
I can't remember, but I remember like 2014 and such. So I thought it was around there, so it might be. I guess back then, and this is why the story and the time it supposedly takes place feels right. For me, the thing is, and I think it's still a great story to tell, and it's worthwhile. But I feel like if it had come out earlier, it would have probably hit a little harder in some respects, like timeliness. It's not to say that, the world has totally moved past all these sorts of things, to say the least. But I feel like it would have been a stronger moment had it come out earlier.
The show come out.
Yeah, but I mean,
yeah.
The book didn't come out until 2019, so.
Yeah. I will say, I think, in terms of timing, I actually think the show came out at the right time.
Yeah.
Queer media is not necessarily mainstream, though it does receive a lot of love and attention. It's not as mainstream as, normal heterosexual media. And I think we are slowly coming to a point. I hope so. Society is going to a point where people accept it more. I still think a part of why it's so successful is that the two male characters are very manly men. I don't think a show about two women hockey players might have been as successful. This is maybe my cynicism. I just don't think. I think if one of the men was more effeminate, it may not have been as successful. I do think that, as much as I love it, I think there's an element of them being manly that comes into the success of the show. But
again,
I think we're still getting there, and I do not. But all this to say, I do not think it would have hit much harder if it had come out, or maybe it would have hit harder if it came out earlier, but it would not have been as successful as it was.
I see what you're saying, because acceptance perhaps wouldn't have been as high, so it would have been more of a niche reception or something. I think Ilya really, and just visually and his whole persona. And some of this comes from like Slavic culture and such as well, right? A little more macho and I guess we'll say kindly, traditionally masculine, right? In many respects. And so the fact that he is those things, but also he's comfortable with himself, right? Obviously, he's also very clear-eyed about what he can and cannot let be known because of his family and going back to Russia and all that sort of stuff, right? And that's a hard thing to deal with. But that's not sort of by choice. He feels sort of boxed in, like, I really don't have a choice, right? This isn't about me, and the consequences can be quite dire. So I think you may be getting, he might be my favorite character because of that and some other things as well. But we can, I guess, cover some of that later.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So of the two main characters, Ilya and Shane, which do you like the most?
Okay, I know you like Ilya more.
I do.
I do like Shane more. And I will say this as a woman watching the show and since I'm heterosexual, I'm watching this as I'm watching two manly men. I do think about, they're young, they're attractive. I'm just like, is there one I find more attractive?
I mean, the whole thing.
The whole thing, right? And that probably feeds into the popularity of the show because they are very young, very attractive men.
Yeah.
I do happen to like Shane more because to me, just as in terms of my personal, who am I more attracted to? Ilya's too wild. But Shane is much more, he's clean cut. He's, very disciplined. Those are all things that personally appeal to me. He has a real estate fetish, which I'm just like, yes, go, invest that money, live in nice houses. I just think there's a lot more about him that kind of appeals to me more.
So, and I definitely have a very different opinion. I thought Shane was super boring.
Yes, that's true. I don't know that I would enjoy dating him.
But you like looking at him? Okay.
Yeah, forget the fact that he's gay, setting aside the fact that he's gay.
Critical details. It could work.
Yeah. Setting aside critical details of him being gay.
We saw when he tried that. He
got along so well with Rose Vandry. I think that's how it would be, I would just have a great time with Shane. That's what I think.
It would be a different sort of relationship, but yeah. For sure. So I think I'm coming at it as a straight guy a little differently, just in general. I will say, I think Shane, maybe the actor, a little better looking, my personal opinion. Definitely the smile and all that sort of stuff. I can see why that lands well with a lot of people. But I think Ilya as a character was just so much more interesting. I didn't, Shane had his things, a lot of his internal hang-ups and how he expressed himself and stuff like that. But he was just kind of cruising. He had his sponsorships and his parents, his mother in particular, were kind of managing and that sort of thing. But otherwise, it was kind of okay. I didn't get a sense of a lot of conflict other than, say, stuff with Rose and Ilya.
His sexual identity.
Yeah, right.
Coming to terms
the big
with
secret that was a big part of, who he was in his life that he could not just be honest about.
Yeah.
That was kind of it. Ilya, on the other hand, it's kind of his entire life. Right? He had issues like with his family, his brother, even, I guess, I forget her name, but the woman he was close with, and they had a very special relationship. Right?
Svetlana.
Svetlana. But I like the fact, again, that he really embraced who he was otherwise within the space that he knew he could work in. He didn't have hang-ups on just saying, I want this.
Yeah.
And I think that was very refreshing. It felt mature and it felt healthy.
Yeah.
In a way, Shane, he got there kind of at the end, though actually he was forced into it. So I almost went, I don't know, right?
I hear what you're saying. I do feel maybe a part of the appeal, and again, I didn't necessarily think much of episode 1 when I watched it. I was just like, I'm not getting the hype.
That was me through episode 4.
But, and this is all going into why I think it's such a popular show. But it's really episode 2 that grabbed my attention. And it's the scene in the bathroom after the award presentation. The wow genetic, and I think this is to maybe the actor and the directors, like their credit and how they've crafted the character, but the emotions that Shane experiences, from anger to, I guess, just like longing, and everything in the way it's expressed, like he goes from angry to soft. It really caught me off guard. And, he was saying these lines that are so crude, like, please get on this filthy bathroom floor. And I don't even want, suck my dick. So he's saying these lines that are so crude, but he has but the expression on his face is so not. And that was when I started to truly get invested and interested, because I felt Shane's, I would say, lust and his longing for Ilya. So part of why the show sells, sex sells, but also why the show sells. It's like a forbidden, kind of secret, hidden, passionate romance. And who doesn't want that,
Yeah, and this is perhaps where Shane actually does better than Ilya in terms of expressing. Like, Ilya doesn't make any, he's very clear about he wants something, right, in principle. But in terms of, like expressions of tender feelings, that struggles, that's a cultural thing, I think. And, like, again, I don't mean that disparagingly. That can be tough in a lot of cultures and upbringings. And as we get his background, you're like, the fact that he's anything approaching healthy is a bit of a miracle.
True.
So and he does come around. I feel episode 6 really, I think that was big, where he, unlike Shane, I feel like he actually made the growth in this department. Shane, we never get to see if he actually would have done it and overcome. He gets forced into the situation of
That's
having...
true, 'cause his dad catches them.
Straight up walks in.
Yeah.
Very little mystery.
That's true.
And then exits, stage left pretty promptly.
Yeah.
And then they're like, well, I guess we're here, right? It's happening. So I don't know. I guess that's just how I feel about the two characters. Now, I'd like to dig into differences or a comparison, and we've done a little bit already, their communication styles, but also their attachment styles. I know that's a big thing when people talk about, secure, anxious, avoidant. I'm probably forgetting something, and various, combinations
Anxious,
thereof.
avoidant.
Yeah, something like that. Maybe that's it. There aren't that many options, I guess. So how do you view them, and both in communication and also like how they approach, romantic attachment?
That's a tough question. In terms of communication, I don't think either of them is good at it, to be honest. At least not at first. You begin with this scene of them, for instance, when Shane wins, I think, MVP, and Ilya has to go to Russia. Shane finds him. He's like, you couldn't even congratulate
when they're on the
me."
balcony.
Yeah, you couldn't even congratulate me. And then Ilya's like, whatever, I'm going to Russia. They just don't understand each other.
Different expectations, I think.
Yeah.
This is a common thing in relationships, I feel.
And it was fairly new, and it was a 10-year-long situationship. They were barely talking once in 2 years at that point in time. Like, you can get why they didn't communicate well, but also because it looks to me like, at least from what I gathered, or the impression I got from the show, is like they had no communication for 6 months. Then there was sporadic texting. Then they would hook up. Then there was no communication for a year. Then there was sporadic texting. They would hook up. Like, that's not communication. That's not a relationship. And the way it was portrayed,
Non-verbal communication, perhaps.
No, I feel like it was portrayed as though they are romantically interested in each other from the start. For instance, with Shane not sending that text that we didn't even kiss pretty early on in their relationship. This is episode 2 ending. So I feel like it was portrayed like they're romantically interested, but not saying it from very early on. And for that, there was very little communication. But of course, later on, we see it gets much better, where in the end, when Dad catches them, and Shane has a full-blown, like, oh my god, whatever, panic attack. But Ilya is really like, hey, I'm here. I will go with you.
Yeah. He becomes like he is the grounded one, for sure.
Yeah.
Again, I think where he struggled, he was good at communicating very directly and confidently about what he wanted. But then when he didn't want to talk about like the serious stuff, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, well, it's just this. It's like, it wasn't just that. And Shane knew that, and so did Ilya, even if he wasn't saying as much, right? So I think in terms of communication, it was different. Like, Shane would deny things, but then he'd also acknowledge really important bits. But I do feel that Ilya in general has a more secure, not fully, but more secure attachment style. He felt secure. And I think when he drifted away, it's because something else was happening. Like, for example, when he saw that Shane was dating Rose Landry.
Yeah.
Understandably, he didn't react great emotionally to it. And so he went off and did something. He tried to do the same thing.
Yeah.
It was kind of emotionally destructive, and it didn't work out. But otherwise, I think he's actually fairly secure, whereas I feel that Shane at a minimum is anxious and occasionally avoidant. But then sometimes he would just come in and actually talk about what he's talked about in a way that Ilya didn't want to.
Who do you think was interested first?
I think Ilya was the first to signal.
Romantically interested, not sexually.
Oh, I don't know. Then in that case, like, because I don't like, I'll be honest, like, even watching, I'm not exactly sure where it flipped, because for me, it happened very quickly.
Yeah, I I think it happened very quickly in the show, but they had this montage in episode 3 of, maybe 2-3 years passing by, and the two of them, they're texting, they're hooking up, they're meeting in between, or, during games or whatever. And I think it's over the course of that time that it happened, episode 3 or episode 4. I think, the course of that time is when it happened. That's my read on it. And I personally feel my take on the show is that Shane got romantically interested first. Just going by, maybe he was just being, I feel he was interested, but I do feel that Ilya had to take steps towards him to truly get Shane to commit. But I think Shane is the one who got interested first, just looking at earlier episodes. And,
maybe.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, my thought is it's probably because Ilya's is like, well, this can't be serious because of all these other things in the background that make it kind of impossible for me.
Yeah.
Like, yes, I can pursue these things in private, but for this to be truly meaningful, it has to be public, and that is a non-starter as far as he was concerned. But I think, as we'll call it, the attachment or lack thereof with his family, is that changed. And I think also as he just sort of accepted, like, not really who he was. He'd already accepted that on some level, right? But that he really cared about Shane and all that sort of stuff. I do think he was slower to come around to it, but it's because he'd put these artificial limits on himself. Like, I can't want that because that's not available to me.
Well, though I think Shane also put those limits, right? It's only until he finally, he tried dating Rose Landry and so on that he was like, okay, I'm gay. I might as well accept it.
Well, what? I mean, Rose totally called him out. Very
you cannot
nicely.
Get into the hottest actress. He had his shot with like literally the hottest woman on the planet in the show.
And it played out well in the press, but maybe not so well.
Yeah.
In private. Yeah, that's funny. All right. So I think I want to sort of dig into Scott Hunter.
Yeah.
Right. Both as a character and his story and his role and how it ties into the bigger story between Ilya and Shane. All right. So first of all, what do you think of him as a character?
Okay. I will say when episode 3 came and we suddenly shifted to Scott and Kip, I was a little caught off guard, where I was just like, what happened?
Yeah, I had the same reaction.
Yeah, like what is the sudden...
It's like, why do we care about this guy?
Yeah.
I'd only seen him jog and show up for some lunches.
Exactly. I was like, he probably knows about Shane and Ilya. Seems like he's not outing them, but beyond that, why do I care?
And his character was not particularly interesting, like even in the minor roles. So I was like, why are we talking about this guy?
I'm kind of with you. And I a lot of my friends who watched it really enjoyed the Scott and Kip episode. I personally was so invested in Shane and Ilya's story. I didn't enjoy it all that much. I understood the point and why we had it. Firstly, it was a good, good to kind of see more of the world that they're in, frankly, which I mentioned is something I feel is lacking. And I understand the pivotal role it played at the end of episode 5. I do think, I do think there was such a big disconnect between the end of episode 3 and the end of episode 5. I think some 2.5 years have passed. Don't know if they've been dating. Don't know if they've had a happy relationship. I think I even saw some online chatter about, was Kip just there supporting him? Were they actually dating at that time? There's just no clarity. And I think that I don't think it was tied together quite as well as I would have liked. I feel like they could have just done Scott Hunter suddenly proposes, suddenly confesses his love to this man. And it would have had the same impact without us having seen episode 3.
Yeah, no, I agree. And when you said that, I was like, oh yeah, you could have just totally deleted that.
Yeah.
That episode and put in more of the Shane and Ilya stuff and just, have him in there so we're reminded that he exists, right? And we don't know much. And then that would have been more of a bombshell because when he calls him out, we're just as shocked as everyone else because we don't know.
That's right. And you're like, oh, wow, so this is acceptable. There are others like this. If they had to show a story, I would have preferred it be woven in a little more smoothly into the other episodes so we get a feel for this character. Right. But I want to say I also watch a lot of like Asian BL, and I think having a second couple is pretty common.
Okay.
And I do.
By the way, for those who don't know, what's BL?
Boys love.
Okay, thank you.
Male romance, but it's I do want to call it. Many times I find the second couple distracting. I would just prefer they have their own separate series. So maybe it's a me personal preference, but yeah.
No, I share it because it's like not a particularly interesting character unto himself, you know. And I don't no shade on the actor. I'm sure he was just executing the story that was written for him. And it gave me strong, like, OC vibes. This is an older show that I actually happened to watch.
I've seen Orange County, but I don't remember it.
I don't know. People can be like, what are you talking about, Michael? But it just, it felt like kind of a really typical, mildly cheesy love drama.
Yeah.
And not much. So I was like, okay. And it really derailed my investment. I was like, okay. Like, episodes 1 and 2, lots happening. You see, you know, that sort of stuff. And then we have this total thing that feels completely disconnected. And I was like, well, I don't know why we're here.
Yes. As much as I like Scott and Kip as people, characters, yes, I think we're aligned. The fact that the way their story was told didn't necessarily feel cohesive to Shane and Ilya.
Yeah, and to your point that you said earlier, you've got episode 3, which is basically their story, and then episode 5, you've got a few scenes, right? And that's like it.
Yeah.
And I was like, you could have just actually had those scenes, and that would have been plenty. But as it turns out, his story is pretty important.
Yes, it is. I just feel like, again, I feel like even if they hadn't showed it, it would have had the same impact. Though it's nice to have the world fleshed out a bit more, because I do feel that piece was lacking a bit. Ultimately, the main characters were written with so much love and tender care, and, you know, directed with so much love and tender care that it's all right. But I do feel the rest of the world was not as well fleshed out as I would have liked it.
Yeah, and I feel like you should choose. Either you're going to have a very well fleshed out world or a very focused story. And I feel like this is where they end up in like the uncanny valley of not really one or the other. Yeah. Because they get like an episode plus. It's not very, you know, his story and Kip's, and it's not particularly well fleshed out, and it's just sort of like there. It's like both there too much and not enough. Yeah. To feel like something I should really be caring about. And for the role it plays, which is really relevant to Shane and Ilya's story, to your point, they could have just thrown that into episode 5. Yeah. And call it a day.
Yeah. And I think maybe you and I have watched this as Shane and Ilya's story. Whereas, you know, when people love Scott and Kip as well, maybe they're just watching it as the world that these people live in. But I watched it as Shane and Ilya's story. So.
Yeah, no, for sure. So we've talked a lot about the male characters in this story, but lest we forget, there are some pretty interesting female characters in here that potentially risk being overlooked.
That's true. I do want to give a shout out to Rose Svetlana, and I think her name is Elaine, Kip's friend. Well, Kip has 2 friends, right? The girl in the smoothie shop with him, as well as the other girl who's in the bar with him.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Again, because I didn't really watch Kip and Scott's story as closely, I'm going to, you know, say I don't remember them too well, but Svetlana and Rose, I do think, play a pretty pivotal role in Shane and Ilya's story, because their acceptance comes first. You know, they are the first people to express, like, hey, we support you, or I support you. And I think that is part of what gives Shane and Ilya the courage to be with each other, particularly Shane, who the first person he comes out to is Rose. It's not Ilya.
Which is not given too much. He's not given too much of a choice, right? Because she kind of calls it.
Yeah, but he admits it. You know, he could have just denied it. But he admits it. And it was so weird that he did it in a restaurant, like such a public setting for such a famous star hockey player. But that aside, he admits it to Rose first. And she accepts him for who he is. Svetlana is the first time he hears externally, like, I hope Jane knows how lucky he is. Like, Svetlana is the first time Ilya hears acceptance as well. And I just want to say, this show has received a lot of love from women and, female audiences. Mm-hmm. So I think the show does a great job in acknowledging the role women play and just being awesome. And, just bringing more acceptance into the world.
I think Rose is good for Shane because it's the first time he comes out to anyone as far as we know. And she calls it, but like she's more than accepting. She's supportive.
And he technically was her boyfriend. He turns out I would be really mad if I was in Rose's shoes, but she's really chill about it. Like, go Rose.
I mean, she did say this is basically not the first time it's happened. Which, when she says, it's like, oh, that's terrible. That's gotta because I gotta figure at a certain point when, let's say you've got a series, like you're like, what's going on here? What's wrong with me? Yeah. Not saying there actually is, but I can imagine someone wondering, it's like, what kind of vibe am I giving that I'm just attracting gay men?
Rose is so cool. I love her.
So I was like, all right, you're handling this pretty well.
Yeah.
I think there's more depth to the relationship between Svetlana and Ilya, though. They've known each other for years and years. 100%. They are also not just friends, but there's a kind of romantic partnership there, I think, right? We don't see too much of it, but it's implied, and Ilya does say something to this extent, I think, when speaking.
He does say he loves her, but maybe not in the same way he loves Shane, or not as much as he loves Shane.
Yeah, I think it's more like it's different, right? They have love, and some of it involves physical things. At least that was my understanding. But it's just not the same. Yeah. And they both know, meaning he and Svetlana both know that. But she's basically known who he was truly for years, and has not only been accepting of that, but like really supportive and very close with him and all that sort of stuff. So I think that her character is like a supporting one for Ilya. Yeah. There's a lot more depth for that one.
I will give you that 100%.
Yeah. You can see, like, I have a strong view on, like, Ilya's story in general, I felt was just stronger.
I do think Ilya was given a stronger storyline. Yeah. I would agree there.
Yeah.
But I do want to say one of my favorite lines in the show is Shane's conversation with Rose, right? I would rather be a hole rather than a peg or something.
And then his response. Oh yeah, no. I was just like, because when it said it, I had an immediate reaction, and then there was the follow-up. It was like, there we go.
Yeah, you knew that was coming. Yeah. That was so good.
I mean, the setup was pretty. As it's like a peg, eh?
I would say that line was kind of second to the written dialogue of Ilya when Shane's like high on medication and like, will you come to the cottage this summer? Yeah.
All right. This is throwing some red meat to the audience. 100%.
So Michael, we've talked so much about all of this, right? I'm curious about your thought. Did you actually like the show?
So if you'd asked me at the end of episode 4...
Yes.
I would have been like, absolutely not.
Okay. You powered through anyway.
Yeah. I committed to the bit, right? I was just like, all right, I made a promise and we wanted to do this and I thought it'd be fun, right? Yeah. I like doing things that, frankly, people look at me, they're like, yeah, there's no way this guy's actually going to watch it or want to talk about it. It's like, let's do it then. That'll make it more interesting because I'm going to come at it from a completely kind of ignorant angle in the sense of like, this is not my genre, in the sense of I'm not familiar. I don't watch this sort of stuff. So I'm just coming in fresh. Yeah. So through episode 4, I was just like, this is just very classic, boy love drama. I didn't
How
feel
many have you seen?
I've been exposed to it.
Oh, we need to talk
more. I've come across the odd thing in my time, right? It's not wholly new to me. So I know what the genre is. I tend to know some of the tropes and how it's approached, particularly since I spent so much time in Asia, and it's not a big deal. True. It's super common.
Exactly.
Particularly like in say anime and such.
Yeah.
That's a big
I do
thing.
want to say this is something that maybe we should talk about, and it's not discussed enough online. This show is not very common in the Western sphere, but this type of story is very common in Asian boy love drama.
There's a huge following
Yeah.
for this sort of thing.
Yeah.
Lots of like fanfic and
Yeah.
just huge online
No, and a lot of those dramas are similar to this, very authentic, very raw. Many of them have characters that have intense personal trauma. Many of them are, characters are hiding their sexual orientation because they're in societies where it's not acceptable at all. So it's really not an uncommon theme in the East. It is an uncommon theme in the West.
Which is interesting because in many respects, these things are less of an issue, these topics or these types of characters.
But I think there's... I hate to say maybe the influence of... I think in the West, it had to be two masculine men.
I agree.
Doing... Yeah.
I think if you'd had two, quote unquote, effeminate men,
Yeah.
or two women, it just
or even Shane's a person of color in that he's half Japanese, but Ilya's white. Like I just think there are these things that had to come into play for it to be the success that it was. But yeah.
That's true. So yeah, I've had exposure. So I guess that does make me a little different from if you just pull someone who'd really just grown up in the US and lived here their whole life and their perspective. This is not unfamiliar to me. So I was like, okay, on some level, I suspected what I was getting myself into, and I was not disappointed on that front.
Yeah.
But yeah, episodes 1 through 4, I was just like, all right, I'm not really interested in this, right? I'm not upset, but I'm just like, I'm kind of bored. Which is probably going to get me a lot of hate. But 5 and 6 is where it starts landing. I was like, okay, it's becoming a substantive story. I'm invested. I like seeing some of this growth.
Yeah.
Some of these things are coming together, right? Like the Scott Hunter thing. Though, again, I don't think they needed that episode. I think they could have just done it.
Yeah.
Right? And then just given us more Ilya and Shane.
Yeah.
For episode 3. So 5 and 6 pulled it. If I were to give it a score, I'll be honest. Episodes 1 through 4 is a 3.5 out of 10.
Oh.
I mean, yeah, and then I'd say on balance, after I watch 5 and 6, it goes up to a 6.
On 10?
Yeah.
That's it?
Yeah. I mean, but like it's probably like episodes 5 and 6 combined are more like a 7.5. For me, that's not a bad 6 is fine. 6 is like, okay, I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Right. But without 5 and certainly episode 6, that would not have been the case. I'd been like, okay, I've watched this. I now know what everyone's talking about, even if it's not landing for me. But I just, and I think, again, that's why I just love Ilya as a character, because he was grounded. He was there. He was himself. He was supportive. I was just like, yes. I was really actually...
You were invested in Ilya as a character.
Yeah, Shane, I was like, okay, cool. I feel for you and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But Ilya is like, I just feel like I understood him. And I was like, he felt, I don't know.
I've heard that sentiment. Yeah.
Yeah. So on balance is 6. That's not bad. It's, 3 out of 5 stars. It's hardly a terrible rating.
That's a terrible rating. What do you mean?
Wow. Okay. Anything shy of 5 out of 5.
Okay.
This is like when your parents say, we only, want you to do your best. It just so happens A+ is what they think it is. So anything below that.
I give it a 9 out of 10 because I think it's a beautifully written love story.
Okay.
Even if I do feel that the world should have been a bit better fleshed out. And that was something I would have loved to see.
They gloss over a lot, pulling us through time.
That's
and you sort of fill in the blanks a little bit.
Skips. You don't really understand you understand enough what's going on in the hockey world. You don't fully understand. I think that as star players, captains of Boston, Montreal, these winning teams, I think there should be a lot more scrutiny and press around them than the show led us to believe. Like, making out on the balcony roof. That's not happening. There's going to be so many cameras or paparazzi if Ilya's visiting Shane's house. Like, I just think, or Shane in a restaurant, talking to Rose and saying he's gay. I just think, I think there were a few inconsistencies that took me out, but by and large, it's such a beautifully written, such a tender love story. And because it's like this forbidden, passionate romance, keeps you really interested. These two handsome actors, doing the role. Like, I just think it deserves a 9 on 10.
Yeah, fair enough.
And the fact that it's it tells a queer story, and there aren't enough of these in the world.
Oh, well, on that front, and I'm not judging it on that basis, just purely did I like it.
Yay!
Episode 6 is probably like an 8.5, for me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like there's a
better and better.
It's not like this. It's kind of like flat, and then goes up and then goes up more, right? Because 5 was like, feeling something. 6 is like, but a lot happened in one episode. I think, and pacing is an issue I have with the show. As you said, lots of time skips, and then we slow down. But also, it's like it happens very quickly.
Yeah.
And so it just sort of feels like you get, we'll call it the eye candy for 4 episodes. Yeah. And then we finally get to what I consider like the meat of the story.
Fair.
I just wish I didn't have to wait 4 episodes for it. But again, the eye candy isn't doing much for me, so that probably doesn't help.
Yeah.
Though I did appreciate that they definitely don't skip leg day.
True.
That shower scene early on, my immediate thing was, it's like, wow, someone likes to hit the glutes.
Can I talk about the shower scene? I want to say, I did not understand what Ilya was doing or why Shane was so... Until I was watching this at my aunt and uncle's house, and my cousin brother was like, I was like, I'm watching this, you want to watch it with me? He was like, sure, but he hadn't seen or whatever. He was like, oh, I'll watch it with you, because I had it on my he didn't have the subscription.
Okay.
And so I was just like, oh, so we watched episode 1 again, because I didn't have it, because he hadn't seen the show, and he explained to me what's happening in the shower. I was like, oh, that's why Shane's so uncomfortable. I did not understand what is going on there.
Yeah. I mean, I will say in the scene, it took me a little, like a few 5 seconds or so. But Shane's face told me, I was like, oh, I
had no clue. I was confused.
Yeah, that was a little bold. I was like...
I feel Ilya knew Shane's interested. Like...
Well, but this is very much...
He clocked him, so...
That's his personality. He calls it, and then he leans into it, right?
So it's bold, but I think he does it with confidence. Like, he does it knowing he's not sexually harassing Shane. Because that could have been a possibility.
Well, I mean, like, even if, Shane's gay, it could still be sexual.
No. He knows Shane is interested and wants, something like this.
On some level, even early on, he's got Shane's number. He's like, you're interested, but you're kind of this kind of person.
Yeah.
And he's not. He's like, I'm just going to throw it out there.
Yeah.
And he removes the mystery entirely. But
no, I did not understand what was going on.
That's all right.
My brother had to explain it to me.
That's hilarious. Oh man, I would pay to be there just to watch that.
Oh, I'm very surprised. I was like, what? That's what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, no, I mean, like I said, I think the last couple of episodes, particularly the last one, was excellent. That's where it really came to. It was like, okay, this is good writing. This is a good part of the story, and I really liked it. So it ended very, very strongly.
Yeah.
And I appreciate the rest of it, like, brought us there. But
what were your key takeaways?
Key takeaways? I mean, I got a lot about a bit being true to yourself, but also that, that is challenging, right? Ilya's story, both their stories do it.
Yeah.
Right? Because Ilya's trying to be true to himself, but also there's certain ways in which he can't be because of these limitations, right? So knowing who you are, being comfortable with who you are, being true to yourself and living that truth.
Yeah.
I think that's really what it is. It is, as you said, like, you know, a queer story, but it could have been a story about anyone. It doesn't need to be. I think it's nice that it is, because to your point, there isn't enough of that out there, or at least widely known and watched. But I think that's also what makes it a great story. Is it's like there's a lot of universal themes that just happen to be told through this storytelling medium. So that's how I felt about that.
Yeah, that's a lovely kid here.
Yeah, but no, I overall I'm glad I watched it, and I'm glad I'm up with what's going on.
Yeah.
And I really like the ending. I thought it was grand.
Yeah, I do have to say those last 2 episodes were, my heart melted.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, thank you so much. This has been fun to explore.
Thank you for having me.
Pleasure.